Welcome. I'm Lindsay Bridges from Charlotte Center for Mindfulness, and I'm glad that you are here. This morning, before we move into our sitting practice, I really just want to acknowledge all that's going on in our world, the reality of so much pain, so much hurt, and really invite us to use our time together this morning to intentionally work with our own body, minds, and hearts with the intention of grounding and centering ourselves so that we can be part of the healing in this world. We're looking at a series of talks at the moment, and the one for this week is Don't Make Assumptions. It actually turns out to be such a useful lens for contemplating our condition in this world at the moment. So we'll look at this more later. But for this sitting time, how do we allow our taking this time as an act of care, self care, to be the grounding that we need to meet the world in the way that we wish? Just really taking a moment to feel into that intention. For our meditation practice, we will begin with some sitting practice. Standing. So allow yourself to find whatever standing pose works best for you as a beginning place. Coming into a mountain pose, feet are about hips width apart. Allow the whole awareness to move down through the entire body, right into the bottoms of the feet, rooting down into the earth below. If you want, you can bring your hands in front of your heart. The knees are soft, the tailbone is just a little bit tucked. Breathing in, breathing out. Again, feeling into this intention. May my act of turning inward be useful for how I face and meet and act in our world. The next in breath, we're going to draw our arms up, reaching high, out breath, releasing down. In breath, scooping high, out breath, releasing. So find your own pace. Notice what your body wants with this movement. Is it a really big movement? Is it more small and subtle? Explore what nourishes your body in this moment. Sometimes we don't know what that is. What kind of stretch and movement with this very simple one is actually useful as a nourishment and nurturing? Last one. And coming down, releasing, and back to a resting pose. Notice whatever effect it had on the energy in your own body. Maybe it's a sense of a little more vitality, a little more tingling of the energy moving around. Then again, on an in breath, we'll scoop up. Out breath, hips go to one side, arms to the other. In breath, back to midline. Out breath, the other side. Again, explore, is there something else, some way of doing this movement that actually would feel good for you? Notice that coordination possible of breath and body. Finding your own rhythm, your own pace. One more each side. Back to midline and release. Breathing in, breathing out. Hands in front of the heart. In breath, we open. Out breath, fold. Breath open. Out breath, fold. Again, exploring your own rhythm, your own pace, big or small movements. Letting the awareness settle in the body and the movement. Using movement itself as a grounding. Last one. Open and release. Next, when the feet are a little more than hips width apart, the hands start at one side. In breath, scoop up. Out breath, come down. One more. The other side. One more. And come down. There's just a shaking off that might be useful for your body. And yourself explore that. Coming back into the mountain pose. And your hands rest, maybe they're in front of the heart, maybe on the belly, heart and belly, wherever feels comfortable for you. Taking a moment to pause here. And let yourself be aware of the contact, the physicality of touch. Your own hands to your own body, offering the supportive, gentle care right through the physicality of touch. Breathing in, breathing out. And we're going to do that new series I recently learned, which is really about heart practice, about opening up the heart to meeting whatever's here inside this heart, body, and mind, and in the world around us. So this is a movement practice, but it's also an energy practice. It's inviting the energy of a strong, courageous kindness, inviting it to nurture and nourish our own body, minds, and hearts, and sharing it outward with the world. So when we do any kind of practice that invites our kindness, invites this quality of care, just notice sometimes it's fairly easy to drop into that quality and that felt sense. Sometimes it's not. That's not actually the most important. The most important piece is setting the intention, is really opening up the intention towards kindness, inclining the mind and heart in this direction of strong, courageous care. And the intention is in and of itself an act of kindness and care. So letting that be enough. Taking a couple of breaths in and out from here, wherever you're resting. And on the in breath, it's literally feeling the possibility of scooping up the kindness that surrounds us, coming out of the world, out of the earth, and then showering it down in this body, mind, and heart. So drawing up, releasing down. And the arms are very soft. I heard someone describe recently how when she finds herself at odds within herself, really unbalanced, she allows herself to know that people all over the world are praying for care, and that she can drop into that field. So for this moment, be one of those people that's orienting towards kindness and care, this body, mind, and heart, knowing that then we share that outward. One more. Coming back to a resting pose, taking a moment to feel into that energy. And then with that intention of being one of those people who are offering a prayer, whatever way that word works best for you. Bring a prayer outward, the whole of the earth and all who are in it. So energetically, now we draw the energy, kindness, care, compassion up. And this time we send it out. Feel into that possibility that's part of all of us to intentionally offer care to the world, to incline the mind, the body, the heart towards care for others. If some sort of felt quality is there with this, that's beautiful. If not, the intention itself is an act of care. It helps ground and center us, bringing to conscious mind how and who we want to be in relationship to the whole of the world. One more. And coming back to standing. Really letting yourself know whatever energy is present in the body, mind, heart right now for you. Feeling your feet on the floor, the connection with gravity, with the whole of the earth, the way this rooting down gives an upward lift. Recognize this possibility, inclining the body, mind, and heart towards compassionate, courageous kindness. Recognizing your own intention in this practice. Open up body, mind, and heart in a way that is useful. And before we sit, there's just some other stretch that would feel good for you. Let yourself do this. And then when you're ready, coming to a seating position. As we begin the seated part of this meditation, I'm going to take a moment to find your posture, settle into the chair, sit into the support of the chair, the floor below. Maybe you're sitting on a cushion or a bench or on the floor, wherever you are. Again, connecting with gravity, allowing that to be a centering. Every cell of the body interacting with the whole of the earth. Sort of umbilical cord connection to the whole of the earth that we never lose. Always here, always the possibility of energetically regrounding, finding our roots and our strength. Just dropping the awareness down through the body into the earth below. The more we practice this, the more we begin to notice how there is a natural counterbalance also available to us. The rooting down is what gives us the energy, the lifting skyward, right through the strength of the spine, the neck, out through the top of the back of the head. Breathing in and out here. So one of the gifts of this mindfulness practice is that we begin to learn that we function best when we are in this orientation of goodwill, compassion and empathy, of letting go. When we bring those qualities to whatever's present, we strengthen our ability to be in the world in a way that we care about. And we use this meditation time to learn how to meet our own selves through those qualities. These qualities of goodwill, compassion, empathy, letting go, open-hearted awareness to whatever's here, and learning to meet it with some skillfulness. The more we know how to do this with our own selves, the more we know how to do it outwardly with others. So we really set our intention to meet this moment right now, just as it is, good, bad, ugly, messy, chaotic, distracted, calm, peaceful, settling, no judgment, just as it is. So I invite you to deeply pause right now with a willingness to know what's going on the inside for you in this moment without any judgment. Tend to live so much of our time lost in thoughts that that's a great place to start. Not so much the story of any thoughts that are here, but the charge, the energy, the tone, the distracted qualities, the settling qualities. Sometimes the whirlpool tug of a certain storyline. It's hard to let go of its grip. What's it like to open in curiosity, not so much to the storyline, but to the grip, energetically, feeling into what does it feel like when my body is in the grip of some quicksand or whirlpool, powerful charged thinking line, storyline. Energetically, where do I feel that in my body? What's the impact of kind of a thought story out of control? What's the impact of it on my body? I felt tone in my body. The emotions associated, where are they in the body? Do this for whatever's here. Sometimes it's really difficult. Sometimes it's kind of hard. It's more of a fuzz out or fog out, a dullness, a lethargy. It actually has its own suction power as well. It's just harder to get a handle on. So if it's that there's kind of a fogging out, what does that feel like? Sometimes we notice it feels good. There's an ease, an opening, a pleasantness. Pay attention to that. And if we really look, it's possible to find interesting mixes of things here in this moment. So, if in the moment is more challenging, what's going on in your body, mind, and heart, what's it like to be really curious about finding some place in the body, mind, heart, not directly involved in the challenge? For me, the place I go first are my toes. Might be different for you. Maybe it's the palms of the hands. Very helpful to intentionally look for what's either neutral or pleasant. Helps us break the trance of the difficult. Open up and know there's more. So finding some place in the body that has some ease, or if not actual ease, is neutral. And I invite you to use wherever you find is neutral or pleasant It's a point for grounding, letting the breath and the awareness settle there. Whenever it gets pulled back to what's hard, acknowledge. Slowly beginning to use the body over and over. It's a refuge, safe haven. Finding these ways that we can cultivate a greater awareness of the wholeness of the whole body, mind, and heart, not just the problems. This is a practice. If our problems have been given free rein for a long time, there's a lot of forest to hunt through to find these pleasant or neutral. If we're willing to look, we're there. Letting our awareness connect, they become stronger. So, grounding in the body, one useful resource. Gratitude, another useful resource. What's it like to open the field of awareness to what's present for you right now in this moment that you're grateful for? It's going to be really simple. I'm grateful for this breath. Grateful for this air. Grateful for this breath. Feeling into that. Not something to be taken for granted. I'm grateful for a roof over my head. Not something to be taken for granted. I'm grateful for the sunshine. And to explore, gratitude offers a quality of strength. And lastly, if you want to offer a few phrases, loving kindness phrases as a means of orienting towards the courageous, strong heart, both for meeting ourselves and for meeting others. If you need some suggestions of what these phrases might be, make them simple. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I care for myself with joy and ease. And then what's it like to offer those same phrases outward to the whole of the world? May everyone, everywhere, know true happiness, wellness of being. May we all be safe. May we know what safety feels like. May we care for ourselves and each other with joy and ease. May we care for ourselves and each other with joy and ease. May we be well. Good morning. Really, gratitude for me right at this moment is just to be able to practice with you all. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to share practice with us together. So, if you used to come to our in person community drop ins, you would know that this is the time that we would greet each other in the circle, go around the circle, be able to hear each other's names, know who's here, maybe offer a gratitude. We will get back to that. Someday that will be where we are. But for right now, our modified version of this is through the chat box. So if you want to offer a greeting to the chat box, would love to hear from you. Or if you want to put a gratitude in the chat box, that's welcome too. So I just want to take a moment to say good morning to Nancy and Emily, Diane, Maureen, George and Paul and Alan, who's saying hello to everyone. So glad all of you are here this morning. So if you have been with us over the last several weeks, you know we've been looking at Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements. Really interesting framework to explore. Very, very useful. And I was grateful that where we are for this week is don't make assumptions. There are so many useful ways of looking at this, but in light of all the events in our nation over this last week, really feel strongly called to do this in one particular way. And that is how the assumptions we make of others in our nation are so destructive. So, first, in light of this past week, I want to name George Floyd. Invite us to use this opening as a chance to pause in compassionate awareness for him and for anyone else who has experienced both our structural and institutional violences in this nation. I really want to pause for a moment of compassionate awareness for anyone, anywhere who has experienced violence. And really invite us to be intentional about orienting this practice of ours so that we are more available, are more useful for bringing greater healing and greater healing action in the world, whether it's in the small ways of just the person to person that we deal with and we meet, or if it's in the larger ways that some of us are exploring and reaching out. So I want us to just take a moment to pause and consider um, this offering a compassionate awareness in light of our world. Thank you. If true growth and healing for us all is possible, it has to start with looking at what ways we might be contributing to the problem. And right here's where this don't make assumptions can be so powerful and helpful. I don't know about you, but for me, any interaction I had with news media over this last week, it made it painfully clear what a powerful habit of making assumptions about others that we have. It's even become an entertainment pastime in our culture to bash and take down others on the basis of assumptions. And inevitably, our assumptions in this vein are judgmental, and therefore they are a source of continuing and worsening pain, hurt, and suffering. We really don't get that we don't get what's going on for others. I had a quote I wanted to use for today, and so I did this internet search for this quote. And what it got me to instead was a Google page that had all of these versions, different versions of quotes around walking in someone else's shoes. And what was so interesting is how hard many of these quotes were to read. For example, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. Definitely trying to be helpful, but can you hear where there is that tragically wrong assumption included in this? That we actually have the capability to climb into another skin and walk around in it. True compassion actually starts with recognizing what we don't know. We can't truly know what life is like for another person unless we've lived their life, and we haven't, and we never will. We can only live this life. This came home for me when I was a long time ago raising my daughters. Even for the people closest for us, we don't know. I remember when I suddenly got that I had an assumption. I understood how things were for my daughter. I understood what life was like for my daughter, and I was wrong. And where I was holding those assumptions, I was actually causing her pain by not hearing from her what I was missing. So if I can't even do it for the people that are the closest to me, I certainly can't do it for others. It's really crucial to get a handle on how much harder this getting it gets when you add any layers of race, of gender, of economic difference, of many other sorts of experiences in life, of the history of having societal trauma based on race, gender, economic difference. Something that might feel as straightforward to some, such as I can trust that if I call the police, they will come to help me, that can have vastly different meaning and consequences for others. All of these different kinds of formative life experiences mean that, of course, we can't really get what it is like for another person. Here's another quote I found. People will never truly understand something until it happens to them. Again, there is some helpful wisdom here, and there is still the fact that even if we share a similar outward event, our experience of that event can differ radically person to person. I know my experience with breast cancer was dramatically different from many other women with whom I've talked. So I can't even make the assumption that having had breast cancer, I know what it's like for someone else to have breast cancer. I have no idea. Our journeys vary so widely. So, what's important instead is knowing to open my mind and heart to listen and learn without judgment, without assumption. If I truly want to understand anything about someone else's life journey. So these kind of assumptions are typically from a place of thinking I understand something that I actually don't. And a big key to seeing that I'm in this terrain is anytime I find myself falling reactively into judging, blaming, or shaming someone else. Anyone else. So then you might ask, well, what about if I am right? What about when the situation is so awful that it actually does deserve judging, blaming, and shaming? I read a lot of white liberal anger at Amy Cooper this week. And what it became clear was that that righteous anger had a deep destructiveness, and how this kind of scapegoating actually blocks us off from looking at how we too might be part of the problem. For example, if I, as another white woman, fall into the trap of Amy Cooper bashing, then I am missing where I too carry seeds of pain and tragedy right within me. As long as my energy is consumed with anger directed outward at her, then I am not looking for the roots and seeds of racism right in me. Righteous anger makes it easier for me to prop myself up on a pedestal, look down at others, and therefore not do the hard needed work of understanding how I too have unconscious racial bias, have all of this impact, and that orientation is the orientation that's needed for true healing in the world. This kind of assuming that the problem belongs to others and not us, that keeps us from doing the true healing work that the world desperately needs. Deep listening, deep coming to understand what's going on for others and how we too have been contributing to whatever the issues are, in whatever way that's relevant. So, of course, we call out bad, hurtful behavior. That's not what this is about. This is about learning to do it in ways that don't perpetuate the problem, that we actually become part of the healing, not a continuation of the problem or a whitewashing of the problem. What about cases when people are behaving with violence? All the kinds of violence that are happening in our world right now. police violence, protest violence, violence against people wearing a mask, violence towards people wearing a mask, and any other kinds you can think of. I remember hearing a very wise teacher many years ago saying, it's easier to hate than to try to understand. That's useful to contemplate. It's easier to hate than to try to understand. What way is hate an easy way out? Our nervous systems are clearly wired to jump into that fight, flight, freeze reaction in whatever way. And mindfulness practice asks us to remember that there is more to us than that, a greater possibility of standing in a grounded, whole brain, whole heart, whole body, embodied presence that actually has a different kind of wisdom and compassion for meeting the world. So, in terms of the violence, here's what I've come to understand about violence through my own life. I've had some times in my life where I have lost myself inappropriately, painfully, hurtfully, inappropriately. Before this happened to me, I thought that only happened to others. I thought there was no way I too could possibly be the kind of person who would partake or even consider that kind of violence. Never crossed my mind. It's really heartbreaking to understand about ourselves, but really helpful. I learned from these incidents that there is no pedestal from here that I can stand on and judge others. Push me far enough, and it's definitely possible to find the edge of my training, the edge of my ability to remain grounded. I know that edge is there. Anyone who doesn't yet know that about themselves likely hasn't been pushed far enough to understand their edge either. Heartbreaking to understand about ourselves, and oh so useful. This is where compassion, where insight, where wisdom, where right action have a real possibility to arise. Gives us a powerful way to meet the world without falling into that painful trap of righteous anger, shame, blame of others that can't hear. When I understand how the seeds of violence exist even within me as well, then compassion becomes the only way forward, the only wisdom path there is. And so, here too is where the beauty and the joy of this practice is. At the most basic level, it just feels better to be able to stand in a strong heart, clear compassion for ourselves, for each other, than it does to be lost in that reactive, assumptive fog of judgment, blame, and shame. It just feels better. Everything I have learned in this mind heart practice has helped me do this more. And this is the sweet relief, the healing that this practice brings. It's naturally available, even and particularly in the heart of really difficult times. So I just want to reiterate, make one point very clear. Being willing to understand the roots of behavior is in no way condoning it. It is rather about learning to tap into a wisdom that orients us towards a better action, better response that helps prevent this kind of action from happening again. So I want to finish with the words of James Baldwin. The questions which one asks oneself begin at last to illuminate the world and become one's key to the experience of others. One can only face in others what one can face in oneself. On this confrontation depends the measure of our wisdom and compassion. So let's pause for a moment. What questions might be useful to ask of yourself? What kind of assumptions are you carrying around the world issues that lead to reactivity, whether blame, shame, fear, judgment? We all do this. What kind of assumptions are present for you? Is it possible to drop below the blame, the fear, the shame, into a curiosity? What might be going on for someone else? What might be going on for you that leads you to look at things in this way? One can only face in others what one can face in oneself. On this confrontation depends the measure of our wisdom and compassion. Thank you. So I have a couple of announcements before we close. Oh, and I forgot to open the Zoom. Sorry, I'm going to take a moment to do that right now, just so that we're ready. And I can give you a login. Thank you for your patience. Got it. Okay. So I'll start with that. For anyone that wants, please join us in the Zoom room afterwards. It's a really sweet time to connect, to actually be able to see each other, and do a deeper greeting, and the chance to kind of hear a little bit about practice, what's happening for you with practice right now. So I'll go on and put the link in here. And sometimes it takes a little bit, it takes a little bit of time for me to get to the Zoom room. So be patient with that. And takes a little bit of time to get in. So I hope you will be persistent and come in if you want to do it. We'd love to have you there. I'm going to do another introduction to mindfulness. This class will be on Wednesday evening, 6 to 7:15, starting June 17th. Would love to have you, or please do share this with anyone else that this might be useful for. Information and sign up is on our website. I said this last week. I'm going to say it again because I'm noticing people are using it. The podcast is now up and available. Sometimes it's easier to download and just listen on your device at your own time instead of a live or a computer YouTube. So it always takes me probably a day or two to get it up. So hopefully in the next couple of days, today's will be up and available. And last, I just want to remind people that there are more proper opportunities to practice with us. Aaron Less is leading Monday nights at 7. We have our Tuesday evening, 7:30. Wednesday is right now, and Thursday, 5:30, Jude Johnson, 9 a.m. Friday morning with me. Other than our community drop-in groups Tuesday and Wednesday, the time is smaller, just a short practice, 10, 15 minutes. So hope you will join us. Lovely to be with you. And if you are peeling off for the rest of your day, sending you good wishes. If you want to join in the Zoom room, I'll be there in just a moment. And so let's sit for just a moment for closing. Again, noticing how turning in skillfully, meet what's on the inside here, actually becomes our possibility for meeting what goes on in the world. May I have compassion and understanding for myself just as I am. May I use that to understand all others everywhere, offer compassion and care. May we all have compassion and care and understanding and goodwill for ourselves and each other. May we be well. Thank you. Good to be with you.